Hey folks, it's Friday, and I'm going to try to talk a little bit more about music. Um, Thank you for the feedback and letting me know that seems like me sharing what I feel and know about music, what little that is, seems to be helpful to people. And I do get a consistent message that people feel my vibe. That's great. Music really is one of the things that keeps me going, especially in these times of just complete, in my mind, social chaos, fomented by politics and the ruling class. Music and art are the things that make sense to me. So what I'm going to do today, and I want to preface it by saying that I won't do this all the time. I get questions all the time. Sometimes I answer them, sometimes I don't. I get requests. In the past, I've generally said I don't do requests because, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's human nature, because it's like crowd mentality. You do one thing, then people see that you do it, then they sort of expect it and then almost demand it. I've been through this so many times being in doing public things. So it's like, I'll do requests if I want to. I won't do them if I don't want to, okay? It's that simple, all right? So recently, some people asked about a couple of musicians that I do like, and I've shown them in the past, but I've made so many videos, I don't expect you to go back trying to find it, okay? The first person I'll talk about right quick, someone mentioned Robert Fripp and Frippertronics. No Pussyfooting by Fripp and Eno. This is like perhaps the introduction to the idea of Frippertronics. Now Eno and Fripp get a lot of credit for this whole idea of tape looping and creating infinite loops of sound. But it just takes a little bit of research to discover that they were far from the first, but they brought it to our attention. I think if you look into the works of Lamont Young and Tony Conrad and probably some other folks whose names I can't think of right now, you discover that the whole idea of looping and the thing that Fripp ended up calling Frippertronics was something happening already. Here's Evening Star by Fripp and Eno. Now these are records that I don't listen to very often. I'll tell you, I have listened to this within the last 2 years. The whole idea of what's happening with Frippertronics and the slow, gradual building and changing of the signal can be boring if you don't switch your attention and focus. What I've found with this, the Frippertronics, and I have listened and I've had some experiences with it. I have some more. This isn't all I have. Okay, I don't always show you everything I have when I show artists people ask about. But in the past, when I've really just allowed myself to give into Frippertronics, it's not trance-like, but it is mind-altering. It is. It's kind of lose track of time, and I found it to be very visual, visually stimulating inside the mind. So that's what I can share right quick about Robert Fripp and Frippertronics. Is it something I encourage people to explore if they've never heard it? Absolutely, yes. Open your minds. Someone else asked me about legendary Pink Dots. I have definitely talked about the legendary Pink Dots. They're a band who I used to collect and sold most everything. I like the legendary Pink Dots. What I like about them is the setting of their... Edward Caspell is very verbal, very wordy. He's constantly telling stories and leading you down these rabbit holes with his narratives. I like the sound of his voice, but like I've said, honestly, I'm not really all that the most interesting thing to me is not your mind when it comes to your words and your pictures. I find the most stimulating thing that people can share with me is the music. And so the music of the legendary Pink Dots is very unique. Sometimes it's really dark, sometimes it's really psychedelic. That's partially why I got rid of a bunch of it, was because a lot of the records are really kind of, I wasn't listening to them really. This is one that I kept because I like this and do listen to this one. Asylum. I have this on CD and have it signed. I have seen the Pink Dots live, and I got to meet Edward Cospell, and I got to hang out with him afterwards. And sure enough, he was high on LSD, and had done it so much it was, like just kind of almost normal to him. But he was very polite, engaging, and fun to be around. So this, just to make another point, this is much more something I can relate to as opposed to like Steely Dan, okay? Yeah, I'll drive a point home. Here's one other that I kept. Brighter Now by the legendary Pink Dots. Haven't played this in a while. And I have 2 solo albums by Edward Cospell. These are very good. This one is rare. Cataclysmici China Doll. Numbered. This one is really good. And this one. Forget the name of this one. Oh, Laugh China Doll by Edward Cospell. These are good. This is good stuff. The other artist that has been brought up to me that I like quite a bit, mainly the band stuff more than the solo stuff, is Graaf Generator, Peter Hamel. I've talked about them at length in the past, but it's been a while. Truly a band that was progressive, is progressive. They're still going. I had difficulty getting into them at first because of, again, the wordiness of Peter Hamel and his voice. It was like, the music was definitely interesting. As a teenager, my thought was, I wish this guy would shut up so I could listen to the music. I had to grow into appreciating how he expresses himself. He's very verbal, but it's not a waste. But again, the most important thing to me is the music. So I have a bit of Graaf Generator, the Aerosol Gray Machine, David Jackson and Hugh Banton and Guy Evans, the other members of the band, loved their playing. H to He, who am the only one. I think this is UK pressing, and here is a US pressing. Here we have the US pressing of The Least We Can Do Is Wave to Each Other. Very different cover than the original UK. And here is the original UK. The Least We Can Do Is Wave to Each Other. White Hammer, fantastic song. Yeah, this is the stuff that this is who I am, as opposed to I'm not I am the. Some people are really into Stevie Ray Vaughan and the blues and that whole thing. This is me trying to get as far away from that as I can. Seriously. Pawn Hearts is a masterpiece of music, not just progressive rock. This is a masterpiece. I took this with me when I never saw Graaf Generator, but I saw Peter Hamel solo when he came to Kansas City many years ago. Saw him and sat up front row center. So he sang to me. After he was done, Gail Colson came up to me. She was still Peter Gabriel's manager at the time, as well as Peter Hamel's. She was kind about it, but she said, I must speak to you because I have never seen a black person at a Peter Hamel show. What is it about his music that speaks to you? And she said, would you like to meet Peter? So I got backstage, got him to sign this. Even got to give him a copy of one of my records, my Norman and the Rockwells. yeah, many times I would keep stuff on me just in case I could give it to people, you know, and so he got one. Graaf Generator 68 to 71. I think this one includes a single of theirs. I'd have to look it up again, but this is a compilation. And then we get into the later stuff, which is all excellent. World Record. Still Life. And of these, this is my favorite, God Bluff. Oh man, this is fantastic. Now someone gave me on CD, so I didn't grab everything. So I have one of their most recent recordings on CD, but I didn't grab it. Here they shortened their name to Vandergraaf for a while and made this album. The Quiet Zone, The Pleasure Dome. It's Vandergraaf with the violinist from String Driven Thing. Another excellent album. And then the live Vandergraaf Live, Vital. This is good stuff. So I just felt like responding to those queries. I've probably gotten others and have forgotten them. Sometimes people will ask me questions I just really don't feel like answering. I was telling you in the last video that I had gotten a big stack of records from the FDH label. Well, apparently Eric Hansen didn't send them to me expecting reviews, although I'll review some stuff. He was, I guess, just getting rid of stuff or giving stuff away. And someone suggested to him to give to me, so he got a hold of me. He actually sent me 20 albums. I'm going through them, but I can give you an overview of what I think the label is about and what I think of it. FDH Records is the label. I don't know what FDH stands for. But this label, I would say, this is one of their albums, Digital Leather, with a local connection. I know these guys, all of them. This label is what I would call a label that's all about street credibility or being music of the people. It's not punk rock, but it's got that punk DIY sort of aesthetic to me, which is pretty much all these records that he sent me. And in fact, it is music made by your friends, by my friends. Stuff that, you know, you go to a local bar or a music club, and besides traveling bands, or these bands travel too, these are bands you would see. You see these bands on tour as well. And Eric Hansen runs the label, and I'd like to give Eric credit that I think that Eric's bullshit detector is pretty good. This stuff that on his label of what I've listened to so far, well, I've tested everything. Is like, yeah, this is the real deal. This is good stuff, and more importantly, if you were to see most of these bands or acts live, it would win you over. I can tell a story. But I played some Digital Leather already on the radio, on my radio show yesterday. Sean Forey is the leader of this band. He's not originally from Omaha, and he used to play with Jay Reatard, the guy that died. But all these other guys, including my friend on the end there, Todd Fink from The Faint and Closeness, all these guys, Ben, John, even Sean has become a bit of a associate, a friend. You know, we don't sit around and smoke, but we're musical compadres. This is it's got electronics, but it's real lo-fi and fuzzy and it's good. It's good. That's one I'll show right quick. Not going to show everything because I haven't listened to everything, but here's one where this is one that is more difficult for me to get into because of the vocals. All right, Kill the Whole Cast, Miscalculations. Okay, I'm pulling this one because musically it's interesting. It's also on cool vinyl. That's nice. The vocals really are kind of hard for me to take. You know, they're just rough. You know. Here's one. The label is good, and I can show you some proof right now. I'd actually bought this album by the band The Outer Minds because I saw them when they came through on tour. I forget who they were playing with, but I caught them. at the local musicians' haunt, Oliver's. They were very impressive live. It was very raw. And I bought 2 albums by them at the time. Now, since then, actually, I've traded them for stuff because it's not, this stuff is not the sort of thing I'm going to put on and play a lot, but I can get into it when I play it. And Outer Minds is a good example. I actually bought a copy of this, so now I have it again. And I was playing it again to remind myself, why did I think they were good? And they are good. They got this keyboard thing going on, and female vocals mixed with male. And I can't give a reference point. It's just good. They're good. They're good. Okay, besides that, I'll share a couple things I was playing otherwise, because I also will honor the feedback that some people really like the fact that the last video was a little bit longer. I'll tell you again that when I make these long videos, because I only have one computer hooked up to the internet, it's frustrating because as soon as I start to upload it, then I can think of things that I want to do on the computer, especially with the internet, continuing to look for information, interact with people, do business. The upload really slows my computer down, and so that has a lot to do with why I've been doing the shorter videos, but I'll keep going for a while. Bridget Fontaine, French singer. Bridget Fontaine is... This originally came out, I think, in 1978, but this is a reissue. I love that psychedelic cover. The album musically is not necessarily psychedelic. It's really more like pop, but I love it. The melodic turn of the music is what I like. I don't speak French. I took it in high school. I've forgotten it. I was having this conversation with another friend of mine about records and foreign languages. You're free to imagine what they're saying, and you're free to just ignore it and listen to it as an instrument, which is what I like to do. But I just played this yesterday and really enjoyed it. An album that I had gotten for like $1 a while back, and went ahead and got it because Lyle Mays is a good musician and plays with Pat Metheny. But I've heard several pieces by Lyle Mays in the past where I thought it was kind of treacly, kind of sappy. So when I got this for $1 and first played it, I really didn't pay much attention to it. I got that impression again. Okay, this is a bit wallpapery. But I played it the other day, and that first impression was there again. This is kind of wallpapery. But I let it keep playing, thankfully, because then the musicianship and the compositional skill started to rise to the fore. This is a good album. Lyle Mays, keyboardist, who's played with Pat Metheny of note. And I don't know about where you live, but in my area, these kinds of records are the kind of records that you find for real cheap, for whatever reason. But this is a good album. It's good. Let me see what else here. Well, FDH Records gave me an album. This is my first record by Reatard owning, because I was intrigued by what he did. He's dead, but what he did was not what I buy. So I would never buy a Reatard record, but I wanted to experience it like at home. So I have Terror Visions, World of Shit. This is a project that he did with a drummer. It's very, very intense and over the top. And looking at some of these titles, don't take offense, but I can see why Reatard is already dead. I mean, it really sounds to me like he just was living very recklessly, and something really negative going on inside of him. I worked through that in myself. In my younger days, I was intrigued by the negative and the darkness, and needing to understand what it was about. But I grew out of it. I don't think that skulls are cool like teenage boys do, and how some of the humor, black humor, that still is very popular, which appears to be part of this, I'm done with. I think there is a connection between that and your life. I do. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. Oh, we were just doing that in fun. Oh, it don't mean nothing. Yeah, you're in denial. That's what I say. So this is really intense, dark, and harsh. Reatard. Okay, 20 minutes, guys. I'm out of here. Okay.